Welcome to a feature overview of Fameboy by Divergent Audio Group. Fameboy is a retro 8-bit drum machine for Kontakt that features over 1,200 unique samples from various vintage drum machines, all recorded through a Nintendo Game Boy. We really wanted to push the limits of this machine and see what it was capable of, so we spared no expense at getting the best sound possible. First thing we did is we opened up the machine and soldered on a 1/4-inch jack directly to the sound output from the PCB board. After that, we connected the shortest and lowest capacitance cable we could find to a transformer balanced DI, which fed a Class A preamp and mastering grade converter. Does that sound crazy? Well, yeah, of course it sounds crazy, and we know that. But we wanted to take the memorable and nostalgic sounds inside this machine and create something new that can be used in even the most demanding studio environments. So let's get started by taking our mouse and clicking on that 3D rendered Game Boy lying on the studio table. And there's that familiar sound. Fameboy features multiple pages which can be accessed by clicking the left and right arrows in the top left-hand corner. You can also click the name of the page in between both of those arrows, which will give you a drop-down menu and allow you to navigate directly to another page. We're going to start off by taking a look at the voice section. There are 16 unique voices in Fameboy, and each of them have their own set of controls. There's a bass drum, snare drum, hand clap, closed hi-hat, and open hi-hat, low tom, mid tom, and high tom, crash cymbal, ride cymbal, rim shot, and 5 percussion voices. The layout for each of the drum voices is nearly identical, with the only difference being the number of samples and the actual samples which are assigned to each voice. There are 2 ways of changing the samples for the drum voice, either by clicking and dragging up and down on the sample image, or by clicking and dragging up and down on the sample number name. Each drum voice has a control for decay, for shortening the length of each drum sample. Below that is a control for filter. Negative values are a low-pass filter, and positive values are a high-pass filter. Control or command click resets any parameter. Each drum voice has 2 octaves of tuning, 1 octave down, and 1 octave up. Below this section are the dynamics controls, with a preset compressor called Punch. To the right of this is a transient shaper called Shape with both negative and positive values. Next up is a 2-band EQ, first with low and high frequencies. The next control is volume via velocity, followed by MIDI learn for assigning a new trigger note for each of the drum voices. The final section is the sampler style mode, and this allows you to cycle through 4 unique sample modes. This is most noticeably heard after you've adjusted the drum voice tune setting. The style can be changed either by clicking the style button or clicking the associated style letter. By default, playing a MIDI note will automatically select the corresponding drum voice. This can be disabled by turning off MIDI select. The last option in the drum voice section are the solo and mute controls found at the top of the drum voice select panel. When a drum is soloed, you'll see a blinking right-facing triangle to its left side. This makes it easy to quickly identify which drums are soloed and which are not. You can quickly clear all soloed drum voices by option and clicking the solo button of an already soloed drum voice. Next up, let's take a look at the drum sequencer. There are 2 sequencer pages, page A and page B, both with identical feature sets, but 8 different drums arranged on each page. Let's get started by programming a 1/4 note pattern on the bass drum voice. We can then begin playback by clicking the play button to the right of the word run. Let's continue on by sequencing the snare drum. followed by the closed hi-hat. Each drum voice has 3 levels of accent, including a global accent per step. This increases the volume of each drum, which is triggered on each corresponding step. At the top, we have a rate control, which cycles between a half note per step all the way to a 30-second note per step. The next control is shuffle, between 0 and 100%, which increases the swing of the drum beat. Accent adjusts the volume boost of the global accent steps. Step length adjusts how many steps are played before the sequence is repeated, adjustable between 1 and 16 steps. Fameboy features 8 pattern sequences, which can be cleared, copied, and selected in real time via MIDI. One of the features we're especially excited about with Fameboy is the ability to export sequence patterns via drag and drop MIDI. So let's go ahead and program a few more drums and check out what that looks like. To export a pattern, click on the word MIDI. This will reveal the drag and drop MIDI area. When this is visible, click and drag from this area into your DAW. This will copy your current sequence pattern as a MIDI file with all shuffle, accent, and note information intact. This allows Fameboy to easily create variations to your sequence pattern. These variations can then be exported and refined further in your DAW. Notice I've now adjusted the shuffle and the accent values. This will allow me to export a new MIDI file with these changes intact. With both sequences side by side, it's easy to see that there are slight but noticeable variations between each MIDI pattern. This extends the usability of Fameboy beyond a sound generator to a drum programming and songwriting tool. This allows us to take the patterns that it creates and place it on other instruments, like this acoustic drum kit I have below. Next up, let's take a look at the mixer page inside of Fameboy. There are 2 mixer pages, page A and page B. Their arrangement is identical to the sequencer and feature unique controls for volume, pan, echo send, and reverb send. Let's take a look at this with the hand clap voice. First, we select the voice by clicking the name underneath the fader. The fader controls the volume, the pot controls the pan, and above are the sends for echo, with control for the echo time, the echo regeneration or feedback, and a high cut for the echo. Below that is the send for reverb, with control for pre-delay, reverb size, and the reverb high cut. Moving on, let's check out the tape machine. The tape machine page is a quick and intuitive way of adding saturation globally to all the drum voices at once. Let's hear this in action by exporting the current drum pattern as a MIDI file to our DAW. The tape machine can be enabled by pressing the power button in between both reels. The drive is the first and most powerful control on the tape machine to adjust. This increases the saturation globally on each drum voice. There's a wide range of control available just from this one parameter, everything from subtle warmth to complete destruction. The quality parameter determines the tape age or high frequency loss. The heat parameter adjusts the boost or cut in the low frequency. For fine-tuning, there is a dedicated input and output control for each drum voice. The output control is useful for making up gain on heavily saturated sounds. The input control can be useful for dialing back on heavily saturated sounds or crushing the drum voice even further. Next, let's take a look at the last page, the master bus. There are 4 unique mastering effects found in this section: the crush or distortion circuit, the 4-band EQ, the bus compressor, and the stereo processing, including stereo width and limiting. Let's take a look at the distortion first. Bit crusher, sample rate reduction, saturation, and the transient slammer. Below that is a 4-band EQ with low, low mid, and high frequency controls. And next is the bus compressor with compression threshold, attack time, release time, and makeup gain. Last in the chain is the stereo processor. This includes the stereo width, and the limiter. In the bottom section are the 2 playback modes, master and multi. In master mode, everything is routed through the master bus effects. In multi mode, everything is routed through cascaded external outputs to your DAW. This allows you to easily mix Fameboy with your external effects and plugins. The last detail we're going to look at is the built-in integration for complete control and Machina hardware. Let's explore this further by clicking on the plugin panel in Complete Control. We can see that this reveals the layout and configuration for Fameboy when using these dedicated hardware and software controllers. The first 8 pages allow for hands-on control of the volume, sample select, filter, and tune for all 16 drum voices, followed by 4 pages dedicated to the echo and reverb sends for each drum voice. Afterwards is a page for the sequencer and tape controls. This includes rate, shuffle, accent, length, tape enable, tape drive, tape heat, and tape quality. The last 2 pages include the controls for the master effects, including the crush, EQ, compression, and stereo width and limiting controls.